Alright guys, so I'm on site here at a job where we're going to install some Christmas lights. The first thing you want to do arrive is find out where the power is. Now sometimes they will have up in the eaves some type of a Christmas light package where there's a plug up there. Even when they have that, I like to skip it. Usually, at least here in Texas, near the air conditioning units outside, there's almost always a plug right over them. And so you want to know where that's at so that you can figure out where you're going to plug everything in. With LED lights, you can actually work very efficiently if the lights are plugged in. Now you have to be careful because if you go to cut something while you're going to make it a little shorter so that it fits the right length of gutter or roof line, obviously that would short circuit the power, cause the circuit to blow, and or worse, could start a fire. So we will work with it plugged in, but we don't want to cut it or snip it while it's plugged in. Oftentimes I like to have the bulbs and the clips already installed onto the wire. That way when I show up I can just unbox it and put it up there and then have it roughly the right size and then snip it exactly as I need to. So there's two ways to do it. One would be unplug it before you cut it, obviously. Or you can use a timer that has a switch, just the little remote switch. I don't have one on me today, unfortunately. But if you use the remote timer where you can just press the button and it comes on, press it again, it goes off, that actually makes it really easy to turn on the lights while you're on the roof, and then you have power. Then when you want to turn them off so you can cut it, you press the button again. Now, I'm not going to deep dive into the safety sides of how to properly install from a roof or beyond a roof in general, but I do highly recommend that you do your installs from on top of the roof and use Cougar Paws or something like it. They get really good traction up on the roofs, and I don't know how I survived without them, but they are a game changer. They make it so that you can install a whole roof line like this in 45 minutes rather than 2 hours. So get yourself some Cougar Paws. I'll leave a link in the description just in case, but you can look it up yourself. No, I'll show you. I exclusively use photocell timers as the little sensor right there, and that can discern whether there's sunlight or not. When the sunlight disappears, the timer comes on. You can have it set right now while I'm installing. I keep it on. You can have it off until Thanksgiving if you want. You can show the customers this. You just simply rotate this, and whatever number it says is how long it's going to stay on after the sunset, or at least it senses the sunset. So I prefer to keep these installed somewhere on the side of the house, or at least where there's not in the front entry, not under a patio where it's lit at night, because if you have a light turned on that will actually trigger the sensor, then when the light goes off, that's when it will come on. So if you have a front porch light on and this is plugged in, maybe the porch light is set on a timer and it'll come on at 4:30. Maybe the sun doesn't go down until 5:30. Well then, as long as that light's on, that sensor's not going to notice that the sun went down because it's still receiving light. So the light literally will not come on. Then in the middle of the night, the timer for the front porch light might go off, and then this will get triggered in the middle of the night. They'll wake up in the morning, come outside, and the lights will still be on because the time hasn't ended, and they'll wonder what's wrong. So that's why I always try to keep them somewhere away from where headlights from cars aren't going to trigger it, and patio lights or other outdoor lights that they might have aren't going to trigger it either. So we're starting on the front left lower section of the roof line. I've got two plugs here. One is going to go for this lower gutter, and then the other one is going to have another extension cord that goes up this other gutter to the top roof line. And now I have these tucked in carefully but lightly so that it will be very easy for me to take it off when I'm done. It goes down straight to the ground and then over to the timer. Now I want to be careful when I tuck in this cord, because when I come back to take them down, I don't want to get on a ladder again. I'm just going to put a coat hanger or something at the end of a pole so that I can just reach up, tug it a little bit, and let it fall off. So I want to have it so that I just lift this up with the pole and it'll come right off. Now the wind is not going to blow this off, very likely, because it's just snug enough, tucked between the gutter and the roof, just snug enough so that it won't get caught. And thankfully, when you have a wall like that, the wind doesn't blow directly across it as often unless there's like a major storm. But I'd rather have to come back in and tuck it in than to have to bring out a ladder when it's time to take down the lights. Again, it's that rare. Okay, putting the vampire plug onto the wire, you want to notch the end of it so that it has that little Y right in the middle, and that keeps those ends separate. You don't want the electricity to jump from that to that. And then in here, hard to see, but deep in there, there's two little notches that keep them separated as well. So you're going to push it in, and on the female ends, I have the ones that can be broken out to put in line. So if I wanted to put this in the middle, like right here, of a cord section, I could knock that out and then just put it on like that. But this is for the end. So I'm going to slide it in there as deep as I can push it. Then I'm going to pull it down carefully, fold it over, put a little pressure down on there, making sure it's going to clamp down, and I can slide it over. Now sometimes these can be a little bit challenging, so if you can just have some wire cutters, you can just squeeze it shut like this. Just use the back end of the hand of the wire cutters that you have. Now I have a male end here. You essentially do the same thing. Want to have a little bit of a gap there. This one you can see a little better. You have the little notch in the middle that keeps them separate. So you go right in the back of it, push it in, fold it down, and then slide over the cover. So it's harder, so I'll go ahead and use the handle. There you go. We start at the front corner there. I run power up to that first roof line, then up again to the next one. We go all the way across, and then end at the other front corner. So everything else, the major roof line sections and gutter sections, we make sure to clip. And we use a vinyl clip that's not going to cause any damage to the roof or to the gutter. It can slide right in there and comes right out at the end of the season. It's also connected directly to the light bulb between the bulb and the socket. That way when we take off the lights, no clips get left behind. I know a lot of times the old clips that would just get slid on, I found them clogging up gutters many times in the past from other installers. That's why I exclusively use this type of clip. Now, typically I prepare the lights before I arrive on the scene. I use this really cool tool called the cable caddy or spool rack, and it's very handy to mount the spool of socket wire onto. My usual practice is to order a 1,000-foot section of C9 socket wire with 15-inch spacing. And the 15 inches is the space between each socket. You can order it in all kinds of different spaces, 6-inch, 12-inch, 18-inch, 15-inch. I think you can even do 24 and 36 inches. But I always do 15 inches. It works right for all size houses. And I just simply take the C9 light bulbs, the halo clips, and screw them in. And I'll have just a bulbing party. Sometimes I'll have my kids come out and help me do it. And it's a pretty straightforward process. I just like to do it before I'm at the job. And so what I'll simply do is screw it all together, drop it in the box, kind of let the wire fold down naturally, and then when I go to install it, I can just pull it out and it slides out easily. As far as the best items go, there's a lot of different brands out there, but the thing I care about the most is the light bulbs. And I use Minleon. That's the best brand that there is. And I use their sun warm white lights. There's nothing like it. It looks elegant. It looks classy. It has a little bit of an amber hue to it, so it's not just yellow. And so whenever anybody asks for white or soft white or something that doesn't look too cold, it's sun warm white all the way by Minleon. But again, if you can get this taken care of before you arrive to a job, maybe you have a rainy day during the season, you can just do a bunch of these lights. You just prep it as much as you can, and then you cut it to fit the roof line when you're there. Okay, when you get up onto the roof line, as I am now, you can have somebody go ahead and kind of just line up the bulbs and the wire, going ahead of where you're working. You want to have at least a foot or two of slack. That way, when the lights kind of get caught under these little, whatever's holding the gutter on there, you just want to have a little play in it so that you don't get stuck with pulling the light and now all of a sudden it might pull the socket off the wire. Having it prepped ahead like this makes it so that you can clip those bulbs on really fast, so one person can be laying out the lights along the ridge while the other person comes over and begins to clip. As you can see, I have the power on. I'm just going to go ahead and clip the first bulb on the very end of the gutter and go accordingly. Jingle bell rock, jingle bell swing, and jingle bell ring. Okay, so we got to the edge here, and up here we have a ridge line going up to the peak, and you want to lay it out roughly, spaced well enough, and then start at the peak and work your way down from there. You don't want to have a light here and a light here. You want to have a light at the peak, and so then you can work downward from that position. Now on these peak bulbs, it's also helpful if you put some type of electrical tape on it or mark it with a Sharpie so that you know when you come back which bulb goes on the peak. You can get a little more in depth with this. Some people will mark with a different color the corner bulbs, but I found that as long as you just get the peak one, it'll help you go a little bit faster the next time you come to install. Okay, so we just had a light bulb that went off while I was going in, and that's because it just gets untwisted. Just gotta tighten a little bit. That's why it's so helpful to work with the power on. That way you don't have to come back later and realize that a light that was hidden in the sun somehow got unscrewed. So we already did that peak, and we got down to the end, and there's another peak over here. The thing that a lot of people have done that I've seen that I really don't like is they'll put the female on here, go over here, and they'll put an inline male. And you should never do inline males. Don't ask me about it right now, but just trust me on this. As you can see here, I went from the end here, 2 females on the end, and I'm just gonna plug in to that. Now this is just a 2 or 3 foot jump. It's nothing major. So I technically could have just kept with the same line and just pull a socket or 2 off of the wire and go straight to here, put the first bulb here, so there'd be 1 gap between, and then carry on from there and then put an inline female right here and add an extra line going down. But sometimes you're gonna have a bigger gap anyway, so I just want to be able to show you how to do it properly. So you got the 2 females on the end and a male on each one. That way you don't use an inline male, which can potentially cause hazards. On the ends, I just snip it at an angle and tuck it under that little pigtail, and that's going to be good to go. Some people will cover it with hot glue or liquid tape or a piece of electrical tape, but that's all you need to do. I've never had an issue with that. It's kind of the standard in the industry. So I'm all finished down here on the lower level. I'm going to just go ahead and run my electricity from this end here, come up the gutter and up the edge, and so from there I'll be able to run the male end of the plug right there up to the peak and then down. I'm not going to worry about this little piece that hangs out. Nobody's going to see it at night, and it will distract. The light bulbs right there will be very ugly. So random ridges and outbursts like that, try to ignore them as much as you can. Focus on what's going to be most visible from the road and make it look like a holistic looking picture.
Now at the top peak, I'll start with that first bulb in place and work it down. I did kind of measure it out beforehand, so I knew exactly how far I needed to go with the bulbs, and then tucked everything into its place. From here, I'm just going to go down the line, keep putting the bulbs in their place. Then when I get to the end, I'm going to unplug it or turn it off. I'll make the final cut, then I'll plug everything back in and make sure it works. By the way, thank you for watching this far into the video. I really appreciate you guys. Let me know how I can help you. If you have any other questions about Christmas lights, whether it's regards to systems, processes, etc., just go ahead and comment below and I'll get back to you. Maybe I can do another video about it and get more specific into the details with you.